Hi, my name is Isabella White, and this is my Chapter 8 presentation of Tortilla Flat. So, the chapter itself, the main focus, or the main character focus, is Big Joe. Um, but there is actually a second character that gets focused on a lot, and that would be Pilon. So, the main notes of this chapter are that Big Joe returns from war. He's around 6 months later than everyone else. He had to serve some time in jail for not doing things in the army that he should have while he was there. So this includes like not shaving his face, not cleaning his guns, just generally not doing what he was supposed to be doing. So when he gets back, he has very few possessions and not a whole lot of money to his name. And when he gets back, he kind of falls back into some old vices, most notably drinking, but also fighting and returning to Dora Williams' house and messing with girls around town. Um, and because of his drinking and his fighting, he ends up spending a month in jail. And to him, this is a good thing. He really doesn't want to work. He doesn't really want to go get a job or do anything. He likes being in jail. He doesn't have to do anything. He can just kind of lay around. Um, so he views it as going home in a way. Um, but when he gets out, he he just wants to go find his friends and get drunk. But he can't find his friends in town. He searched when he first got back home. He searches again when he's out of jail, but he can't find them. And initially he thinks that they've died. But through the grapevine, he discovers that Danny bought a new house on Tortilla Flat, and that's where all of his friends live now. So he goes to try to find Danny's house and all of his friends, and along the way he meets Palan. Um, and he tries to converse with Palan and see how everything's going. But Palan isn't very interested in the conversation until he asks if Big Joe knows what night it is. And Big Joe doesn't know. So Palan explains that it's St. Andrew's night, which basically this means that people are going to go into the woods and there will be treasure hidden in the ground. And you will find the treasure by looking for little glowing spots in the ground. So that's what Palan is going to go do. He's going to go search for treasure, and he invites Big Joe along, but on the under the premise that if they find treasure, Palan gets to decide what happens with it. So Big Joe goes along. They go to search for treasure in the woods. And Joe wants to sell the treasure to buy wine, primarily. Um, but Palan, he wants to sell the treasure and give all of the money from it to Danny for being such a good and thankless friend, especially since he, Palan, and all of their other friends have not been very good housemates. Um, so this is kind of an act of kindness from Palan. The passions in this chapter are primarily laziness, kindness, and greed. Laziness is seen in Big Joe. He doesn't want to get a job. He just kind of drinks, goes around and does his own thing. Even in the army, he didn't do a whole lot. He didn't really do what he was supposed to be doing and got in trouble for it. That's why he likes jail so much. He doesn't have to do anything. Kindness is seen in Palan. He he wants to go sell that treasure and do something good for Danny. Um, but actually, he ends up taking this a little bit too far and kind of gets greedy in a way. He ends up being not a very good friend to Big Joe because he wants to be such a good friend to someone else. And greed is seen in both of them, but um, primarily in Big Joe. He really just wants to keep the money and just kind of get drunk. To change, I think that Catholicism would be the best school of thought for these characters. It is mentioned that Palan converted to something. It's not explicitly said, if I remember correctly, what it was, but there is a heavy notion of Catholicism throughout the book. And I think that it would be a good switch for everyone in this book to be a Catholic. Um, Primarily for a couple of different notions, but one of them is giving up material items. Um, Now, it's not to say that they should all be homeless and poor, but in Big Joe's case, he's very much focused on alcohol and drinking. So I think the idea of giving up material items, including wine and all this other stuff, would be a good change, and it would really improve his character. There's also notions of virtue, but in this case, I really mean justice and temperance. Justice is already kind of portrayed by Pilon. Big Joe stole a blanket from Danny to go buy more wine, and Pilon is very upset about this. He wants Big Joe to go get the blanket back and fix it, and fix what he did, and to not be a thief anymore. Um, and temperance, it isn't really portrayed, I don't think, but I think it would. I think the notion of it would be good for Big Joe, especially. Kind of finding that middle path or that golden mean, as Aristotle would say. Um, so not being so lustful, not being greedy, um, not not falling into these temptations that he loves so much. And there's also notions of diligence. So this would refer to getting a job, really, is what it refers to in this case. I think that getting a job or having more of a work ethic in Big Joe's case would really benefit him and his character. And I think it would prevent him from falling into temptation so easily. Um, and I think that it would really improve his character and all of that good stuff. So that has been my presentation on the eighth chapter of Tortilla Flat by John Steinbeck. Thank you for your time and thank you for watching.